All right, this is Off the 11th Hour, and I'm your host, Nathaniel Stone, but we all know who the Lord of Hosts is. Say it with me in any dialect you so choose. Yahuwah, Sabaoth. Kodesh brothers and sisters, fellow members in the body Messiah, and those in the world, thank you for giving me your attention in a world full of distractions. I want to thank you for joining here. This is Season 2, Episode 6. Yeah, very special episode. You know, I know that a lot of people love their animals and love their pets, and they're wondering on what do the scriptures say about our animals in the kingdom to come. So we have a guest speaker here with us today. I'm going to introduce Brother JayP. So without further ado, let's introduce Brother JayP. If you have anything you'd like to say before we get into the material.
Shalom, everybody.
Yeah, I brought JayP on because, there's something special with this episode. You know, there's a friend of mine, as Yahuwah, or in the common tongue, the Lord, adopted me. I adopted a pet named Jackjak, and I can tell you, I didn't want this pet originally. It was kind of pushed upon me. I don't want to get into the full story here, but once I got to know him and grew to love him, there was just something really special about him. So JayP got to meet Jackjak. He's a dog that I have on many occasions, and so that's why I brought him on the episode. So I'm gonna get into a couple photos. I want to introduce some people to Jackjak. So let me kind of bring him up here on the main screen here. So this is Jackjak. A little montage here for him. He sometimes he wasn't paying attention when he was driving. Other times, he would. Just a real cute dog. But there was definitely something special about him. Now, if you see on the back of his neck here, there's a marking that on the back of his neck. Now, when I first came into this walk, I was not in Torah walk when I first got Jackjak, I was not in Torah, in this Hebraic understanding. So I didn't recognize this symbol. But here's another picture of it. So, here's a closer shot here of this symbol. And you can, I guess everyone can kind of see what they want to see here, but I wanted to share something here. This is the Hebraic noon, it's what we have for N. And if you see really closely here, there's the pictographic, which this is the pictographic symbol. And what I saw and what I see on the back of his neck here is a Hebraic noon that is there. My name Nathaniel, so the beginning of my name is on the back of his neck, means seed, heir, or continual. That is there. You can see a good marking that is there. So here it is together. That is there. So there's something really special about Jackjak. But I don't want to get too much more into that. I would like to get into the material at hand now. Jackjak, let me kind of switch over here. Jackjak passed away a little over 2 years ago, and it was very, very emotional. Now, when I got called into Torah, I got called into this Torah walk. My life was a mess. I was an emotional wreck. I mean, a wreck in many aspects, and I really had to pick up the pieces. A broken and a broken spirit. Psalms chapter 51 stuff. And I really had a lot of healing to do. I was backed in a corner, and as part of my testimony, I don't want to get into it, but I believe absolutely without a shadow of a doubt that Jackjak, this dog that you see, was sent to me to help me and to comfort me in a real emotional, difficult time, and real special time too, as I was as I was picking up the pieces, I realized that my way wasn't working, and continually my way fail, and this failure in my life that people actually that had been done to me was just so massive. It was so evil. It was so wicked. And this is what the catalyst was that caused me to turn to Torah. And so Jackjak was a real integral piece, because I never really respected myself very much, but don't walk on my friends kind of mentality. And Jackjak, I really felt like I had to defend him. He was getting abused. He was under, just like I was. It was a real difficult time. But what really helped me, like, embolden was, I'm like, that parental instinct, and I know that Jackjak's a dog, and a person is a person, and a child is a child. I didn't have a child at that time. And so, of raising. So the father gave me a supplement and helped me with this vitamin supplement in my walk. So, and then we had just so many great experiences. I can get into them at the end of this episode. Just a real amazing time. And then the day that he died, it was on the darkest night. It was on a lunar conjunction, and it was the brightest day on a summer solstice, and he died that night, June 19th at sundown on 2020. And as I was sitting there and crying in tears and wondering, why would you give me something so special? Why would you put something so amazing, so unique in my life, and then not give me any hope of ever seeing him again? And in the mourning, in the loss, mourning for his death, just a lot of family members in the community, spiritual family members. Everyone gave me little pieces. Got a little piece there, a little piece here. I got a little bit over here. I myself got a piece, and I just collected this whole thing, and I came up with this document. And the purpose of this episode is for those who have animals and they wonder how the animals, go into the everlasting kingdom. Where's the hope? Where's the salvation? What do the scriptures say about animals? And so I wrote this, and I compiled a bunch of information to put this together. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get into the information here. And Brother JayP, if you have anything to say, just cut me off and we can, move forward from there. So, let's go here. So, I call him King Jackjak. And what's interesting is that, a lot of times, probably a handful of times, not like a lot, but a handful of times, whenever people would see Jackjak, certain individuals, they'd call him a king. That's why I call him a king, because other people, would call him that. And he, had a real interesting personality. So Jackjak Papishki Stone, a king amongst canines. So this is dedicated to him. So this is Psalms chapter 37, 4 and 5. And delight yourself in Yahuwah, and let him give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to Yahuwah, trust in him, and he does it. Well, what the desire of my heart was that if I go into the everlasting kingdom, like, it's not going to be the same without Jackjak. Sorry, a little emotional. I still miss him, but it has a happy ending. So what if my desire is to see Jackjak with me in the eternal kingdom? What if that is the plan of Elohim? So here's Proverbs chapter 20, verse 10. The righteous regards the life of his animal, but the compassion of the wrong is cruelty. So as Proverbs 12:10 says, to show love and compassion towards his creations is considered righteous. So the opposite is also correct. Someone that is beating their animal, that is showing cruelty, that would be you could say the opposite of righteous. What is the opposite of righteous? Is it wicked? But the opposite of so. Luke chapter 12, 6 and 7 says, are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 copper coins, and not one of them is forgotten before Elohim, but even the hairs of your head have been numbered. Do not fear, for you are worth more than many sparrows. And I want to know, if you don't know the word Elohim or Elohim, that is the Hebraic word for God. So follow along in any translation. I'm using ISR, Institute for Scriptural Research, but I encourage you to use your scripture book at home and read along with me. But when you see the word Elohim or Elohim, that's the Hebrew word that is God that is there. So as we see here that even the hairs of our head have all been numbered, so do not fear, for we are worth more than many sparrows. So he's talking about 5 sparrows, and then the hairs of our head, which are less than a sparrow. And he even knows the hairs on our head, let alone the sparrows that are there. So he definitely knows the animals that are there. So even the small and insignificant is known by our loving Creator. This is Psalms chapter 50, verses 10 and 11. For every animal of the forest is mine, the cattle on 1,000 hills. I know all of the birds of the mountains, and all moving in my field are mine. So here we have that every animal in the forest is his, and the cattle on 1,000 hills, and all the birds in the mountains. So what he's saying here is that he knows the animals, the cattle, the birds. He knows all of them, and they're all his, and all moving in his field are his, is what he's saying. So even the hairs on our head, even 5 sparrows, and now as Psalms chapter 50 verse 10 and 11 says, that every animal is known by him, as he knows all people. He knows everything. But it's a lot of this kind of goes, you could almost say goes without saying, but the scriptures say it just so that we know that he's saying, yes, I even understand animals and the hairs on your head, and you could imply the hair or the fur on all of the animals also. He has full detailed understanding of everything in his creation. I would argue down to the subatomic level and below, but we can bring that up another point in time. So the earth is his and the abundance thereof. He knows every animal. This includes insects. How many trillions of insects, quadrillions over all of Earth's history or more. Don't you think that he made them more than just to create in this world and then to die and never have a chance again? What makes humans so special to not, for the animals not also to get love? So Job chapter 12, 7 through 10 says, but now ask the animals and they teach you, and the birds of the heavens and they declare it to you, or speak to the earth and it teaches you, and the fish of the sea inform you. Who among all these does not know what the hand of Yahuwah has done this, in whose hand is the life of all that live and the breath of all mankind? So he's saying that the birds, the animals, all even these the smallest things, the fish, they all have an understanding of the Creator on some level, and when we study them. And when we, get into the science of things, we get even more an understanding that these things were created. They didn't just come out of some primordial soup and manifest itself. On that point, I just want to make this right now. Do you know that you have about 30 to 40 trillion, that's with a T, trillion cells in your body, and one cell, just one cell, is more complex than the space shuttle. And there's systems in the cell that would have to have formed simultaneously because they're in a check and a balance with one another. You can't have one and then the other, or a series of things without them all being created that is there. So you have something that is a single cell, more complex than a space shuttle. And people think that, you would think that I'm crazy if I told you that a space shuttle just built itself over billions of years and crawled out of a primordial soup, and how much more complex is biology than human mechanics. And then that cell replicates 30 to 40 trillion times, creates a interlinked superconscious, and then multiplies 6 to 7 billion times on this planet alone, let alone how many have been living of humans. And then you're talking about the plants and the animals. It's just a little little bit absurd to me that anyone would think that something like this would just create on its own. But again, when it's a different point, I just felt guided to share that. So let's look at how animals have souls. So Genesis chapter 9:5 says, "But only your blood for your lives I require. From the hand of every beast," that's animal, "I require it. And from the hand of man, from the hand of every man's brother, I require the life of man. Whoever sheds man's blood, by man his blood is shed. For in the image of Elohim he made man." Now, Genesis 9:12 through 17. "And Elohim says, this is the sign of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living," that's the word nephesh, soul, that is there, "that is with you for all generations to come. I shall set my rainbow in the cloud, and it shall be for the sign of the covenant between me and the earth." Now this, as you see here, every living nephesh, this is not just people. This is also animals that he's talking about. And you can see through context that he's talking about Noah and his family, as well as the animals that are there. And continuing in verse 13, "I shall set my rainbow in the cloud, and it shall be for the sign of the covenant between me and the earth. And it shall be when I bring a cloud over the earth that the rainbow shall be seen in the cloud. And I shall remember my covenant, which is between me and you and every living nephesh of all flesh, and never again let the waters become a flood to destroy all flesh. And the rainbow shall be set in the cloud, and I shall see it, to remember the everlasting covenant between Elohim and every living nephesh of all flesh that is on the earth. And Elohim said to Noah, this is the sign of the covenant which I have established between me and all flesh that is on the earth." So here I'm building, like you could say, like a case that animals have a soul, as clearly in Genesis chapter 9 that is there. The only difference between animals and mankind is that we are created in his image. Now, they have a spirit and a soul, as we're going to see here as the scriptures point out, but they are not created in his image, and man was put in a position of, you could say, dominion, but that word today in dominating is not quite the same way. Man is like a servant, is like a caretaker of the earth, a great gardener, a great shepherd that does so in loving kindness that is there, which includes all of his creation, not just things that have a soul. Also, we're talking about plants. Plants are living; they don't have a soul, or I should say that they don't have they don't have the same type of life that we would have with a spirit and a soul. But plants are definitely living. Even the rocks, even the rocks would cry out. If even I can raise sons of Abraham from these stones, he says. So inanimate, or what we call inanimate, all things are singing out and have what you could say like a vibration, crying out to the Father, not in the New Age sense of vibration, but a different episode I can talk about this. So let me get back on track here with Isaiah 66:22. "For as the new heavens and the new earth." So this is, if anyone understands this, past Revelation chapter 21. So, or in line with Revelation 21. Revelation 21, 1 through 3, talking about a new heavens and a new earth, and new Jerusalem coming down. So here in Isaiah 66:22, this is talking about after the 1,000-year reign, after Satan is thrown into the second death, and all the wickedness is completely done away with, the great white throne of judgment, and all the dead in the second resurrection are accounted for by their works. And after all that point in time, in new creation, here, "For the new heavens and the new earth that I make stand before me, declares Yahuwah, so your seed and your name shall stand. And it shall be that from new moon to new moon, or Chodesh to Chodesh, and from Shabbat to Shabbat," marking that there still is time. People try to say time isn't going to be in existence. No, there's still time in the new kingdom. Time is a series of events that happen. New moon to new moon, and from Sabbath to Sabbath, all flesh, not just humans, all flesh shall come to worship before me, declares Yahuwah. In a separate, on your own time, take a look at how certain animals have been marked to be following the Sabbath. But bees, beavers, even a donkey, I've seen, and some more interesting things about the resting on the Sabbath. Here is Psalms chapter 145:21. "My mouth speaks the praise of Yahuwah, and let all flesh bless his Kodesh name, his set apart, his holy name, Leolam Vayed, forever and ever. So here we see that all flesh, not just animals or humans, all flesh. You know, we are special. We are made in his image, but animals also have a spirit and a soul, as we're going to see here too. And they also give thanks to the Creator. And this is kind of the testimony of Jackjak, as I'll share at the end here, because he did also. Romans 8:20 through 22. For the creation was subjected to vanity, that's all creation, not from choice, but because of him who subjected it in anticipation that the creation itself shall also be delivered, that's Yasha, or salvation, from the bondage to corruption into the esteemed freedom of the children of Elohim. For we know that all creation groans together and suffers the pain of childbirth together until now. Humans, yes, all creation, because humans are not all creation, but all creation, but they are waiting for the children of Elohim, the children of God, to be glorified. They're waiting for this moment of time so that we can progress into this everlasting kingdom. Now let's take a look how animals have a spirit. It's interesting. This one's in white here. Animals have a spirit. This is a very special verse here. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 19 through 21. For the event of the sons of men is also the event of animals. One event befalls them, as one dies, so dies the other. Indeed, they all have one ruach, or one spirit, as you'd see there. Look in the Hebrew, in the interlinear, you'll find the word ruach, or spirit, that is there. They all have one spirit. Man has no advantage over animals, for all is vanity. All are going to one place, all came from the dust, and all return to the dust. Now here's the special verse right here, verse 21. Who knows the ruach of the sons of men, which goes upward, and the ruach of the animal, which goes down to the earth? Now, if anyone understands, if anyone understands chiastic poetry, I'm going to ad lib here. Let me find an example that's just coming to mind here of chiastic poetry. There's a few that is there, brother. If you can find the one where it says in Proverbs that even the prayer of the wrong one is an abomination, but the sacrifice of the wrong is an abomination, but the prayer of the righteous one is upright. Something about prayer and sacrifice, about the wrong in abomination in Proverbs. But let me find up one here in 1 Kings chapter 11, and let me show here. Let's go here on the waves here. 1 Kings 11:5. I'm just giving you an example of chiastic poetry. In Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the mighty one of the Sidonians. So this word mighty one that you see here, that's the word Elohim, but in context, it would be talking about false Elohim, or God, talking about false God, the Sidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. And so you see here that I'm going to highlight them both in pink. You see here he has the word Elohim here, and then he has the word abomination here, and then you have the word abomination here. Let me put this in pink also so that you can see it. And then he has the word abomination here. And so what we have in chiastic poetry is we have the name of a false god. Here, I'll put this in yellow. We have the name of a false god. You have the word Elohim, and then you have a kingdom that is associated with. Here, I'll put it in green. And then here you have the name of a false god, so we'll put that in yellow. And then you have a word abomination, and then you have the kingdom is associated with. And we'll go ahead and we'll put that in green. So here you have the name of a false Elohim, and I'll hide that, and I'm color coding everything if you're paying attention. And then the word abomination, and then the kingdom is associated with. Here you have the name of a false Elohim. Again, this is the fourth example, the word abomination, and then you have a kingdom is associated with. So if you see in the color code that is here, you have the same pattern that is here. You have the name of a false Elohim, you have the word Elohim, mighty one, and then kingdom. Same thing here. Name of false Elohim. Now you have the word abomination, and then you have a kingdom, false Elohim, the word abomination, kingdom associated, false Elohim, word abomination, kingdom associated. So the chiastic poetry on this is that the word false Elohim can be interchanged with the word abomination, and it means the same thing and gives you depth. So how you can read this with chiastic poetry is, and Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the abomination of the Sidonians, and after Milcom, the false god of the Ammonites. You see how you flip the two here? Elohim or false gods, and then abomination, or false god and then abomination, and you do the same thing here. That's chiastic poetry. So, brother, did you have that scripture pulled up?
No, I was trying to find it. I couldn't.
Yeah, let me kind of. I think I know where it is here. I think it's. But I think it's Proverbs.
I did want to make a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Towards you had mentioned earlier previously in the study that in Proverbs it was talking about the animals and how for us as men, as humans, to care for them. And I think it's amazing because even with the parables that we get from Yahusha, and he speaks in Matthew chapter 18, and this is a parable, of course, for a bigger picture, but he's speaking to the people because the people in that land, they have understanding from parables because they're living that kind of a lifestyle. And he says in Matthew 18, verse 12, how think you, if a man has 100 sheep and one of them be gone astray, doth he not leave the 99 and goeth into the mountains and seek that which is gone astray? And if so be that he finds it, verily I say unto you, he rejoices more of that sheep than of the 99 which went not astray. Even so, it is not the will of your Father, which is in heaven, that one of these little ones should perish. Now, we know we're talking about people here, and that's what Yahushua is giving, but he's painting a picture to a people that have an understanding of this type of shepherd. And so he's speaking to people because their emotions would have the understanding that if one of their sheep were to go astray in the physical realm, they would leave the 99. And that's how much that shepherd really loved the sheep. And so that it kind of tied in with the one in the Proverbs that was speaking about the care for animals that we have.
No, that's amazing. Thank you, brother. Because what would that analogy mean if everyone was like, well, what do I care about that one sheep? I care about the 99. When you were saying that, it reminds me, if anyone has seen, I'll put the link in the description box. If anyone has seen Patterns of Evidence Exodus under the city of Ramses, I think it's called the city of Avaris, and yeah, it is. It's Avaris, and then in Avaris they found a bunch of graves, and then in these graves they found what they called how did they call them? Proto-Canaanite people, basically people that came from where Abraham's people were, the land of Ur, and in these graves there were they would be buried with sheep, with their lambs. So like so to me what that they found some graves to where people were laid to rest like right next to some of their livestock, and I would probably say some livestock that they had a close connection with, because if it was, and this is where they believe, this is where the land of Goshen is, and this is the same time period of when the children of Jacob were settled into the land of Goshen and then multiplied in that area, and then in that location in Avaris they found these grave sites. So clearly there's a connection that people had some type of a bond with their animals that were there. I found that scripture I'm looking for. Let me pull it up here on the it's a Proverbs chapter 15:8. And let me go ahead and get that up. So Proverbs chapter 15 8, it has pull it up. It says the slaughtering of the wrong ones is an abomination to Yahuwah, but the prayer of the straight is his delight. So here's the word slaughtering. That is the Hebrew word found there for zabach, or thusia in Greek. That is the word for sacrifice. ISR has some weird wording sometimes. I like the different wording, but it's important to understand like what that word is. This is the word sacrifice that you can see here. I'll pull it up so you can see it. It's zabach. that is there. So here you have the word sacrifice, and then here you have the word prayer. And so let me put that in purple, in pink, in chiastic poetry, you can switch these two words around, and it actually gives depth to the meaning of what the verse is saying. So you can put the word prayer where slaughtering is, and the word slaughtering where prayer is. I'm going to use the word sacrifice so that people, don't have confusion. So you can put sacrifice where prayer is, and prayer where sacrifice is. And let's read it. Let's read it in the chiastic poetry. The prayer of the wrong ones is an abomination to Yahuwah, but the sacrifice of the straight is his delight. So you see how you can flip these two words, because once you understand the two words in chiastic poetry, then you can flip these two words. So I wanted to make that point to give anyone understanding if they see other chiastic poetry elsewhere in the scriptures. So let's look at here as we're connecting here in verse 21 of Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Who knows the ruach of the sons of men, which goes upward, and the ruach of the animal, which goes down to the earth? So what is the part that is the chiastic poetry? Right here, sons of men and animal. Because as it says here, indeed they have one ruach. Man has no advantage over animal. So he just clarified that. And now in verse 21, he uses that in chiastic poetry. And this is, I think, is the main, one of the strongest scripture verses of showing that animals go into the new kingdom. Not all. So the episode is, do all dogs go to heaven? It's not just dogs. That's a common phrase in English. All dogs go to heaven. And as we know, in a lot of times statements have half truths in our world today. So it's partially correct and partially incorrect. It's kind of twisted in understanding. No, all dogs don't go to heaven. While I'm remembering, when it's talking about dogs, outside of the dogs in Revelation chapter 21 or in other places where it's talking about outside of the dogs, this is not talking about the animals. This is talking about people. If a loose woman is called a whore in scriptures, and a loose man is either called a sodomite or is called a dog. So in case you want to understand what it's talking about there, that's not talking about dogs as we know as dogs. It's talking about the people that are having animalistic actions. But getting back to the point in verse 21, let's read verse 21 with the chiastic poetry. Who knows the ruach of the animals which goes upward, and the ruach of the sons of men which goes down to the earth? What this is saying is not all men go upward, and not all animals go upward, talking about going into the everlasting kingdom. Not all, that resurrection, that first resurrection, those in Abraham's bosom are waiting for that first resurrection, and the dead of Messiah shall rise, and we the living who are left over. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, 15 through 17 talks about that in detail. And so here it says who knows the ruach of the sons of men which go upward. The chiastic poetry says, who knows the ruach of the animals which go upward, and then conversely, who knows the ruach of the animal which goes down to the earth, or the sons of men who go down to the earth, those who are not part of that first resurrection. So I believe that this scripture verse here, in talking about the chiastic poetry, is giving a clue that some dogs go to heaven. Some animals go to heaven. Some animals and some people make it into the everlasting kingdom. What does Matthew chapter 17, I think it's 13 and 14, say? It says that the way is what broad and wide that leads to destruction, but the way into salvation is narrow and few find it. And I don't believe it's just talking about people. I believe it's talking about his creation. Special creations, many are called, few are chosen. Certain chosen of his creation go into this everlasting kingdom, and who knows who it is? Only Yahuwah knows who that is and gives revelation on that. So let's continue in Psalms chapter 36:6. Your righteousness is like the mighty mountains. Your right rulings are a great deep. O Yahuwah, you save man and animal. And that word that is found there for save is Yasha, which is the word for salvation or deliver. So he's saying that your righteousness is like the mighty mountains, and your right rulings are a great deep. O Yahuwah, you Yasha, you salvation, you deliver man and animal. And I believe that that is talking about the everlasting kingdom and the world that we're in now. So so with that, I'm gonna flip back here and then we're gonna maybe get into some testimony aspects. JP, before I get into something, maybe if you have anything that you want to share, and then I'm gonna share some photos and some testimony of Jackjak, because this teaching was given to me by the sacrifice of his death.
Yeah, I think that, just kind of speaking towards animals and man, there's so much that comes involved with that. I know there's many animal lovers, people that enjoy having animals, and there's a lot of affection that you have, because they seem to have these emotions that they don't speak, but if they did, they would probably have a lot to say. Sometimes, when I've had my animals, my dogs, there were times when I was sad, and then they come and they lay next to you, and they're there. If you're excited, they're excited with you. They're running around, and just so many different emotions. And I think that's one of the aspects that, as we've been looking at the scriptures today, we're seeing that there's something different than just having dominion over an animal, and that's all. It was something that we have animals that work for you. You have animals that work for you, and if you've ever shepherded sheep, which I now have the pleasure to do, they truly hear your voice. Now, they wouldn't do that if I didn't have no time, if I didn't spend time with them and that care for them. They wouldn't even want to be next to me. And so I think the animals, they have that kind of emotion, and they attach with human. They understand their place. Especially sheep, they understand their place. They know that they're the sheep, and they know that you're the shepherd. But there was just that aspect that I thought was very interesting that I want to share, that we see it, especially those who have had pets, whether they're animals, whether it's a dog, cat, whatever kind it is, they know that there's an attachment. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. While you were talking, I got something that connected, and I haven't connected it before. In Psalms 36:6, as we just covered, it says, "Your righteousness is like the mighty mountains. Your right rulings are a great deep. O Yahuwah, you save man and animal." So here is talking about his righteousness like the mighty mountains. And that he, Yasha, saved man and animal. But then what did we cover in Proverbs 12:10? That the righteous regards the life of his animal, but the compassion of the wrong is cruelty. And then he talks about that all animals are mine, the cattle on 1,000 hills and all the birds of the mountains. So you see a righteousness in mountains regarding the animals, and having regarding the life of your animals. And then you connect that with Psalms 36:6, and then it has all those key words that are there, righteousness and mountains, and then connecting that with Yasha, with salvation that is there. Your righteousness is like the mighty mountains, and then he says that in Proverbs that we covered that that the righteous regards the life of their animal. So I see that we model that we are to follow after Elohim. We model after him. We model after Messiah, and we see their loving kindness and their compassion that is there. So, I think that's if someone is abusive towards their animal, if someone is beating their animal, I just would say that person would have some refining to do. Not saying that person is, unredeemable, but that person definitely has some refining to do. And if they don't, and if they carry it through to their end, then that person is going to be the opposite of righteous. And that's just the long and short of it. We are to love our neighbor as ourselves, and I think that animals are a type of neighbor also. That are in dominion. How can we rule as kings and priests over other people if we aren't even ruling over our own household properly, which is including the life of our animals? So,
yeah. And I would like to just share off that Proverbs chapter 12, verse 10, just a few different translations, because I know that there's different translations that people do use. And some of them, of course, they're a little bit more broad and just easier to read for some people. So like the New Living Translation says, the godly care for their animals, but the wicked are always cruel. One of the popular translations of today would be the NIV. And the NIV says the righteous cares for the needs of their animals, but the kindest acts of the wicked are cruel. And then the ESV, it also says that whoever is righteous has regard for the life of his beast, but the mercy of the wicked is cruel. And the last one I'll share comes at the CSB, which is the Christian Standard Bible, and it says the righteous cares about his animal's health, but even the merciful acts of the wicked are cruel. And so the comparison between the righteous, or like the NLT used the word godly, cares about his animals so much that they made a comparison to that the mercy of the wicked is cruel, or the merciful acts of the wicked are cruel. So there's this comparison that they're making from a person who has this care and understanding that what Yahuwah has given you this control over, or power over these animals, and how much we should care for them, how much we should bandage them up when they're in need, in comparison to somebody who would, like you said, just kick them to the side.
You know, interestingly enough, brother, on that note, you know, because we were planning on, you know, we didn't rehearse this information. You didn't know exactly what I was going to be talking about. I just asked you to come on because you know Jackjak, and you're dealing with a loss of your animals, and you went out today on day one of the week, and are going out trying to take care of some cats that are having some ailments, you know, and caring about their health. And that's I think the coincidence I don't think is lost there. I think that's an interesting connection. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely that. I mean, when we had these cats, and you know, of course, we had about 5 litters that happened at one time. You know, living out here in these mountains, you get that kind of effect. But even with the pressure that they give you, because there's so much that comes with it, you know, it's still a matter of a life, and so you got to care for the animals, definitely, for that. Hallelujah.
Yeah. Well, again, I give this, you know, this teaching is for all those who love animals, and wondering what's going to happen with the life of your animals in the kingdom to come. I want to say that if you enjoy this information, just please don't forget to give a like. If you really like it, subscribe if you're new to the channel, or share it with someone. I don't necessarily care about the likes or the subscription. I do like to know if people like the information. It is nice to get some feedback on that. But most importantly, I want this information to be out there to edify the body and build up the faith in the body. So please share it with your fellow animal lovers. Maybe people that aren't in this Torah walk, or aren't even in the foundation of scriptures at all. You know, maybe it can help to strengthen them. We know that there's many different ways that the Father can draw us and woo us into his kingdom, and we don't know, you know, exactly which way for which person is gonna break down those barriers. So to share that information, if you want to come on the channel, you have a topic that you want to talk about, or anything like Brother JayP came on here, please shoot me an email. I have an open invitation for anyone that has topical information to come on, whether you want to be presenting information, or just kind of a support for information, as Brother JayP here is today. Please come on and come on the channel. But let's get into. I want to get into a little bit of a montage here with Jackjak. So let's go and just share some stuff. It's an episode dedicated to him. So. This is Jackjak when I first got him. He was on death row in Sin City in Las Vegas. He lost everything in Las Vegas, and it looks like he even almost lost his soul. You can see how sad and very thin and frail. You could see his ribs that were there. He was really sad. Wouldn't even look at the camera. Just had that 1,000-yard stare. He realized there was no love in his life. He was really sad. No caretaking for. And then you could see here how happy he got sitting in the window of my RV. He loved the sun. Here, I'm going to play a short little clip here. You can see a little piece of his personality. Yeah, here's Jackjak, brother JP's old place, taking a rest. He loved the rest. Here he is getting ready for a wedding that he was a part of. Here's the wedding with him and Daisy, my sister's dog, and then Jackjak, he wanted a little nicer threads, so we went to a store at Men's Warehouse. You can see here we were getting his spats. They call them spats, custom fit for him. You can see here is he's not too happy, but he's letting me put him in the suit here. As he got it, I was getting fitted for a tux. We had a formal event to go to that he was invited to also. So here he is in his little suit, and then here I am in the tux. He liked to dress up, or he allowed me to put some little stuff on him. I would love to have raise a family one day, but he's a nice supplement. He was an adopted son. I recognize that he's a dog and that he's an animal, but I definitely really enjoyed his personality. Here's my mom. He liked to take him shopping. He loved to sleep in the car ride. He loved to go and sleep in shotgun. Here he is sleeping. He liked to sleep in my, always would sleep right at my feet and with his head poked out, always paying attention there. And he's in a real deep sleep here with his tongue hanging out. He was actually in REM dreaming. His eyes were kind of, fluttering. Here he is getting ready for a car trip, a road trip here. We're camping, so you can see some at a campsite here in the background. Here we are on the road driving. If you look here, look how muscular he is. At my school, we had like 10 flights of steps of stairs, not steps, but flights of steps that we had to go up every day. And he was just running up and down. He was a service animal, so he got to sit in class with me. And you can see how Jackjak got. He had some pretty big shoulders from jumping up the stairs all the time. Here is, you can see his blanket. He got his wings, and just some more photos. Just the two of us. My friend took these shots. Jackjak's modeling here, and a real nice background down in Florida. Here's an interesting one. I read online that Jehovah's Witnesses had a pyramid connected with Charles Taze Russell and had a Watchtower Bible Tract Society. And so I saw the online stuff. I wanted to see if it was really there. I went there in Pittsburgh area, and I went to the site, and I put Jackjak there to prove that I was there, and this does exist. That's a Masonic temple in the background. Here's Jackjak there, as you can see the Masonic symbol, crown and tilted cross. That's a Knights Templar symbol there with all-seeing eye, set a capstone at the top there, right next to the founding father of Jehovah's Witnesses, the Laodicean messenger, warning people about being lukewarm and saying that they have everything and they're fully clothed, but yet they're naked and poor and pitiable and wretched. But anyways, we are there. Here we are at Times Square. We were doing some witnessing there. Jackjak's guarding. He loved to bark and stay attentive here. We were doing witnessing here. If you can see up in the corner here, it says in this temple. That's a temple to Lincoln. It's not the Lincoln Monument. It's the Lincoln Temple. It says in this temple, literally above his head. We were there witnessing in Washington D.C. Here we are at the obelisk, 555 feet above ground, arguably 111 feet below ground. But you can do the math on that. Interestingly, on this obelisk, I think it's Daniel chapter 3, the same image of Nebuchadnezzar has the same dimensions as this. It's 55 feet wide and 555 feet tall. That means it's about 10 times taller than it is wide. The image of Nebuchadnezzar is 60 cubits by 6 cubits, height and width. It's the same measurements. I believe that the image of Nebuchadnezzar was not of him, but of an obelisk. But that's a separate point. Here we are. We're witnessing, and I'm talking to everyone here at the base here of Washington D.C., trying to educate the people of what it is that they're visiting. Just some nice photos of Jackjak. Sorry, photo bombing me in the background. And just giving him some hugs. Here he loved the beach. He loved to chase the water, the blue lights in my car. Guarding. We saw this one already. He was very happy that day. He had his turtleneck on here. He's a real thinker. Here he is on a road trip with a friend of mine, Steven, as I took him for 6 weeks on a tour around the country. Here we are after COVID. We're joking around. I got a little mask for him. You can see Jackjak had his own little. He had his own little mask also. It was a nice family here that I am friends with. Here's Michael. He's now graduated in the Marine Corps, but here he is when he was younger. Jackjak resting on him. When I used to drive truck, Jackjak's guarding in the truck. Didn't really like those shoes, but he allowed me to put them on. I cooked for Jackjak every day. He wouldn't eat dog food, or rarely ever. Only when we were at a friend's house would he eat dog food. I was his personal chef. He didn't like the mushrooms and onions, but I cut up the burger for him and the egg, and he got to eat that. He loved zucchini and squash and cabbage, and he loved vegetables. He would his favorite was zucchini and squash and snow snap peas. He really liked to eat that, eat healthy, and sometimes he'd choose that over chicken or beef that he'd have. So here he is when he was younger. When I first got him, looking up in the, you can see his eyes are still. He's still healing from all that trauma. He was abused really bad. This is you can't see it. It's in the corner. This is the last photo I have of him alive as he's running off in a field. His brother Michael and his family up here, and he got laid to rest just up here on this hill here. And then you could see here's a Jackjak. Here's the stone that we had. That's the service tags that I had to lay him to rest. But it was written in marker, and so I went back and I took a Dremel, and then in the Dremel, here's the father's name, Yod He Wah He, or Yod He Vav He, dialect stuff, Yahuwah, or some would say Yahweh or Jehovah, right? And then I have it in stone, rest in peace, Jackjak Papishki Stone. And I think that's the end there of the series. So with that, I'm just going to kind of close off here with just some testimony of Jackjak. Let me kind of get back to your screen here, brother. All right. Well, one thing that I wanted to call you on that I thought was kind of interesting. Maybe you can kind of confirm this, or I should say this: when Jackjak got laid to rest, there's a terrible accident. It was really emotional. But Yahuwah had told me that there was 3 things that he told me, like that small, quiet, still voice. This is what I learned from his death. I was told not to do this. Don't bring that, and be careful for this. I don't want to get into the details, but I was told 3 little things, and if any one of those things I would have listened to, Jackjak would likely still be alive today. But I ignored that small, quiet, still voice, and it was a perfect storm as it will. And as the sun was setting on the summer equinox, a tragedy had happened, and I'm thankful that my friend was there because he had to grab him and put his remains and lay him to rest as I dug the hole. But as I'm laying there in bed, I'm crying, and I'm just like my ruach was like ripped out of me. My soul was just in torment. And I'm crying. I'm like, how can you give me someone so beautiful, so special, and then he's gone? I know people can make it. I know people can go into the everlasting kingdom. I have better death with a person. I better cope with a death with a person because I have like faith. Like if someone's good, a person is good, then they're going to go into the everlasting kingdom. I trust Yahuwah's choice on that matter, but I didn't have understanding. My emunah, my faith was not built on up with the animals and the understanding. And so that night, as I'm falling asleep, I asked for a sign, and I asked for a sign to know if I would ever see him again. And that night, I was given a dream. In that dream, I saw Jackjak rise up from his bloody injuries and rise up, and then he's running. Similar on that last photo of him alive in this field, but everything was made of light. It was really, really beautiful. And he's running. There was a road cut through there, and like a driveway. And then he ran across the driveway on the other side. And then he turned around and saw me. And then he he sees me and he turns around and he kind of, his hind legs and his front legs kind of got, he kind of, as he kind of, turned around, then starts running back to me. And my friend Susan was there. And I turned and I said, look, Susan, like, look, Jack, he's fine. There's nothing wrong with him. Like, am I delusional? Why did I think he was hurt? And then as he's running back to me, I wake up. And then I realize I just put him in the ground. And so I tell this dream in the morning to Brother Michael's wife, Abigail, and she said that she had that same dream. She had the same dream that I had. So on account of 2 or 3 witnesses, a matter is established. And then later on, my grandma lets me know that she had the same dream of Jack running in a field. So there's 3 people, and this is what I had prayed for, that I would ask if I would ever get to see Jack again. And I was given a sign, and Sister Abby and then Sister Judith Ann was given a sign, all of the same confirmation that, and so in that I can say that not all animals go to heaven, but my faith, you can agree to disagree on that, is that Jack will be in the everlasting kingdom. So if you make it, many are called, few are chosen. So those of you that are chosen and you see Jack, say hi. So there's that. There's a Brother JP. You want to maybe talk about that one time at our Passover? Do you remember that event?
Oh yeah. Definitely. We had the Passover at our house, and it was interesting. We were talking about it and just having Passover, and we had our unleavened bread, and we had the wine, and just kind of pondering on the animals, and if with Jackjak there, because he was ready. He's ready to get on the table and do everything like we were doing. And so it was, just there's so much to think about when you're in those positions, and we've seen his heart, and the heart of the dog was just like, hey, like I'm with you guys. Like, what's going on?
He wanted to. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was saying, because I felt funny about giving him lamb. I'm like, I don't know if I want to give him lamb, because I don't want to be like, I don't want to disrespect the Passover, because I cook for Jack every meal. And so I cooked him a separate meal. I cooked him chicken. I cooked him his chicken, chicken drumsticks. He loved those. And so I cooked him his meal. And then after he ate his meal, and after we were done with ours, we were, he was coming up and asking me for food. He wanted food. And so I was giving him, because I had made homemade unleavened bread. And so I was giving him little pieces of unleavened bread. And you were like, is that right for you to be given, Jack, like part of that unleavened bread, and like, I had quoted from Matthew 15:26. I said, even the little dogs eat the crumbs which fall from their master's table. And we kind of had like a little joke about that, we were kind of laughing. And then, do you remember what happened with Elizabeth with the grape juice?
Yeah, vaguely now, but we talked about it, and it just her spilling it, and and him able to get that grape juice, and it just all came to fruition. Him having the unleavened bread and having some of the grape juice at the time, and it's just an interesting, as we conversated about it, like you said, and it just.
That was his last Passover. That was interesting, because like right at like 5 minutes after he had the little crumbs of the unleavened bread, your daughter, she knocked over the grape juice cup, and it spilled off the table and on the floor, and he ran over there and licked it up, and I was just like, Jack, you're in the kingdom now, like, I guess that's the way Yahuwah wanted it. He partook. I'm not trying to be sacrilegious with animals. The animal is an animal, and this is commands for people, not for animals. So, but that's just kind of how it transpired. We didn't try to give him, we did. I gave him a piece of the unleavened bread after we were already done with our ceremony. We already were done with the meal. We were completely done, and then I was just giving him little pieces of bread as I would. And then the grape juice was a complete accident also. So that's just kind of interesting. So I want to share another interesting tale, a Jack story about him. Was that Brother Kevin. He was waiting on an immersion for 10 years? Over 10 years? He was waiting for a while. he was waiting for someone in the walk to come do an immersion, and I just so happened to coincidentally be driving past in the, he's out in the middle of the country, and I just happened to be driving by, and so we went to go do an immersion. And Jackjak, he liked the beach, but he didn't like to really go in the water too much, So brother Kevin and I, we got into the mindset, and we were reading scripture, and we're talking about baptism, immersion, and we're getting we're asking the Ruach to come, and Jackjak's there, and so that we both changed into our swimming attire to be able to go out. And so the lake that was there, it was a warm, sunny day. I forget, somewhere in the summer. I don't know if it was June or something like that, July, and we had to walk out in the lake. And Jackjak would normally just stay at the shore. He's not going to run away. He wants to stay close, where I'm at. But the lake was so shallow. It was such a gradual angle down into the lake that we had to walk a good ways out before we were able to get into waist deep, belly deep water, chest deep water, before we could do an immersion. So I'm way out there, comparatively how quickly the lake will, descend. So we're way out there, and my back is to the beach. And I start praying, and then in my prayer, Brother Kevin waited 10 plus years for the immersion, and I'm praying, and I lay my hands on Brother Kevin, and I'm praying, and then all of a sudden I hear some splashing behind me. My eyes are closed, and I just kind of turn my head around, and I see Jackjak. He's paddling out towards me, and I'm like, oh no, and I'm quietly, because Kevin, Brother Kevin hadn't seen it yet. I quietly, I'm like, go back. He understood. We had a connection. I tell him go back. And Jackjak did a 180, and he went to go swim back to the shore, and then he did a 180 again. So he turned back towards me, and he literally shook his head no, I'm not going to make it. I could read his mind. I was given discernment. He looked at me. He literally shook his head. He's like, nah, man, I can't make that, because he was closer to me than he was to the beach. He was about 2/3 of the way to me. And he looked at me, and he's like, no way, I'm not going to make it. You're closer, I'm coming to you. And so he swam out to me, and he barely had the strength to swim out to me. He was in his last, he was about to go under. I'm serious. I was watching him as I'm praying. I'm like, if he goes under, I gotta go rescue Jackjak, but he barely got the strength to get to me as I'm praying. And I grabbed Jackjak, pick him up out of the water, and he's like, to be he was gasping for breath. He was about to drown, I'm telling you. And so and Brother Kevin looked over at him. He's like, what in the world is going on? And as we're praying, and Kevin said that Jackjak put his paw on him. And so we're all praying, and then after it come time to do the immersion, which was shortly after Jackjak got to me, I had to put Jackjak back in the water and then do the immersion, do the baptism, and bring Jackjak Brother Kevin up, and then I had to pick Jackjak back up again, and then we're all saying hallelujah. And Brother Kevin said that it was very special. He said that it was a very special immersion, and Jackjak wanted to be a part of it. He wanted to be a part. So I want to give there's a lot of memories that I have of Jackjak. Let me kind of look through some. We're getting a little over on time. I want to kind of wrap this up. He was just amazing from the get-go. But I'll say this: we were doing a Sabbath study that night, June 19th, and everyone kept saying how peaceful Jackjak was, and the sun was on his face. It was beautiful. We were studying the whole day in this field. It was real nice. And then it came time as the sun was starting to go down. We're about to go get something to eat. We're going to break loose on the study. So Jackjak's giving me the signs. There's plenty of things. He'd look at me and lick his lips, and then I look at him. I'm like, oh, you hungry? And then I lick my lips, and then he'd lick his lips again, and that's the sign to know that he was hungry. So I went into Brother Michael's house, and I had a rotisserie chicken that I had bought the day before, and Jackjak loved the dark meat, so I pulled all the dark meat off, and I had a bowl, and I put all the chicken in his bowl, and it's one of his favorite meals. He loved dark meat of chicken, rotisserie chicken, and he loved it. And so I put the bowl on the ground, and then I slid the bowl to him, and then he wouldn't eat it. And then he backs up. And I'm like, Jackjak, what are you doing? I know you're hungry. Eat your food. And then I slid the bowl closer to him. And then he backed up again, and I slid it closer, and he backed up again. And I'm like, Jackjak, what's wrong? And then he looked at me, and he cocked his head to the side. And then I'm like, oh, how can I forget? And so I fold my hands like that, and Jackjak goes down. Sometimes he would get his paws like this. Sometimes he would get his paws like that. At this time, he got his paws like that. So he went down on all fours and went down, and then we prayed and we gave thanks. And at the end of the prayer, B'Shem Yahushua HaMashiach, Amen. And he got up and then he ate his chicken. So Jackjak wouldn't eat his last meal. I didn't know that was going to be his last meal. He wouldn't eat his last meal until he gave thanks. And so that's real special. And I'll kind of close things off with this at the very end, that night, all that night and all that week as I'm mourning his death, I kept hearing these lyrics. Now you recognize the tune, but it's a different lyrics, but I kept hearing this over and over. Hearing this in the Ruach. So I'll sing this one lyric here. You go, oh, where can Papishki be? Yahuwah took him away from me. He's going to heaven, so I got to be good, so I can see my Jackjak when I leave this world. I heard this over and over and over. It's a real beautiful thing. So there's a happy ending. So I do believe that not all dogs go to heaven, and not all people, well, we can say heaven or the everlasting kingdom. Not all dogs go into the everlasting kingdom. Not all people make it in the everlasting kingdom. But I believe that Jackjak's sacrifice, and for me to have this teaching, is so that I can give it to you, my mishpachah, my family, my brothers and sisters, so that you can be strengthened, that your loved ones, not just your people, but special loved ones. I can't guarantee who's going to make it, but that's for Yahuwah to decide. But I can say that some do make it. And I do believe I was given confirmation on account of 2 or 3 witnesses, and then all these verses were given to me that he made it. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and, JP, you have anything else you want to share?
Oh no, I was just saying hallelujah. It's such a blessing to, from my experience, having Jackjak coming over for Shabbat with you, and just all the times of, them running around the neighborhood. He would just run up on the block, and just everything that we got to experience with him around our family was always a joy. And so I just want, he's always going to be in our memories as well. So hallelujah for that.
Oh, I'm sure one more memory. Well, I was at Sukkoth. This came in my mind. I want to share this one last thing, and we'll go ahead and close off. Is that I was at a Sukkoth. There was this huge, 1,000-acre campsite, and Jackjak was just running around free without a leash. He used to, when I had a back injury, I used to have to spin him around in a circle on like a 20-foot leash. So he got in the habit of spinning around me like an electron around a nucleus. And so he would just run circles around me. As I'd walk, he would be like an electron running around me. So I'm just, walking. We're going to some study. It was a pretty big event. There was, I think it was, I don't know, probably 700, 800 people that were there. In Missouri, and I'm walking, and all these little kids come up to me, and they're like, hey, how long have you owned your dog? And I go, own him? I go, do you see a collar? Do you see a leash? I'm like, own him? I don't own him. I said, Jackjak can outrun me. I can't run faster than him. I said, if he didn't like me, he'd be gone. I said, I don't own him. I said, we're friends. I said, he's a free dog. He owns himself. And so that was, thing. And then a couple days later, the mother of these children come up to me as we're walking back from a study, and she goes, excuse me, brother. And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, I just want to say that what you said to my children the other day. And I'm like, oh no, here it goes. I'm like, what did I say? I'm like, I didn't say anything. She goes, you blew their mind. I'm like, what? They go, every time they see you and Jackjak, they go, mommy, look, that's Jackjak. That's a free dog. He owns himself. Nobody owns him. So yeah, I want to share that. A free dog. So, okay, with that, let's close off. As you know, I have my closing verse here as don't cast pearls before swine. So I feel led to do something that we already covered. It's just a real beautiful verse. I think that this one is this one in Ecclesiastes chapter 3:21 are the strongest of them. Let me kind of go back here. Don't cast pearls before swine. And what is the pearl that we have? Let's go ahead and let's go to the beach. We haven't been to the beach all day here. And what is it that we have? Almost forgot. We have our jar here. And the pearl that we have here in what we covered, Psalms 36:6. Your righteousness is like the mighty mountains. Your right rulings are great deep. O Yahuwah, you, Yasha, salvation, deliver man and animal. So with that, I'll say, remember, guard your heart, guard your soul, guard Thera, or pay the toll.